unbeatable.
Greetings, Poké fans! Michael here, and today I will be answering a question that most fans have not posed since the beginning of the anime. How old is Ash Ketchum? The reason they didn't ask it then is because at the beginning of the anime, we knew Ash was 10 years old. It states it in the first episode, and trainers start their Pokemon journeys when they turn 10. So back then, we knew the answer. However, as the series carried on, some of the older fans began to wonder, is he still 10? The anime has been around for about 16 years, and he's obviously not 26, so therefore he doesn't age at the same pace we do, which makes sense since one episode a week would be one day in his life. But still, people wonder, is Ash still 10? This clip from In the Shadow of Zekrom, the first episode of the anime series in the Unova region, answers this question.
And that includes the Kanto region's Pallet Town, home to this young man, 10-year-old Ash Ketchum.
So yes, Ash, according to the writers, is still 10 years old. This is evidence because he still has the physical appearance of a 10-year-old. The main evidence for that is his height. He is significantly shorter than his Charizard, which according to the Pokédex is only 5'7". To compare that, I'm 6 feet tall, so here's what I would look like next to Ash. He's also still either the same height or shorter than the girls around his age, a trait which most males no longer possess after they've hit puberty. So Ash is technically still 10. There are a few theories as to why this is, even though he's been traveling for so long. The first theory is the coma theory. It states that when Ash got into the accident with the bike in the first episode, he actually did not go unharmed by it. Instead, he entered a coma, and all the events taking place afterward are just dreams, and all the people he meets are manifestations of his own mental characteristics. Brock is supposed to be Ash's repressed sexuality. Okay. I put the link to the full coma theory in the description below, but there's too many flaws with it for it to actually be conceivable. Plus, this is a kids' show, and the writers wouldn't put in something that dark. The second theory has to do with Ho-Oh. The Pokédex entries for Ho-Oh in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Black, White, Black 2, and White 2 all say, it possesses 7 colored wings, and is said that those who see Ho-Oh are promised an eternal happiness. It is suggested that for Ash, eternal happiness is always being on a Pokemon journey. Therefore, after he sees Ho-Oh, it grants Ash's subconscious wish for that and allows him to always continue on a journey, never growing older. However, it's likely that neither of these theories are true. The reconfirmation that Ash is 10 is simply an attempt by the writers to keep Ash near the age of the target audience of the show, because, unlike some other shows, most of the people who watch the original series have outgrown it and no longer watch it. Except for me! Woo! So Ash is still 10. But there's no way he realistically could have traveled through Kanto, the Orange Islands, Johto, Hoenn, the Battle Frontier, Sinnoh, and Unova in less than a year. So if the animators and writers had aged him like they should have, how old should Ash be? Well, we can find out the answer with math! In the original series episode, The Battle of the Badge, Ash says that it took a full year traveling through Kanto to get back to Viridian City.
Our heroes are back in Viridian City, where Ash hopes to win an Earth Badge. If he does, it'll be his 8th, and he'll finally be able to compete in the Pokémon League.
I can't believe it's been a whole year since we were here.
Then later in the Pikachu short before the third Pokemon movie, Entei, Spell of the Unknown, Ash tells Pikachu that the party they've thrown is for the anniversary of the day they first met.
Don't you know what today is, Pikachu? This is the day we first met. The day we first became friends.
So it must be assumed that it is the second anniversary, so 2 years exactly since he first started on his journey. Each season of Pokemon, or each theme song, has one movie that goes along with it, and the third movie pairs with the first season in Johto Journeys. So if it occurred later in Johto Journeys, that means Ash entered the Indigo League, traveled the Orange Islands, and did a bit of traveling through Johto in the time span of about a year. This makes a fair amount of sense. So, as a result, Ash should be 12 at the time of the third movie. Much later, in the final episode before Ash heads off to the Kanto Battle Frontier, the Scheme Team, Ash mentions that Ash, May, Max, and Brock's traveling through Hoenn had taken a few months.
Wow, it's hard to believe after traveling together for all these months we're actually saying goodbye.
We'll meet again.
We can probably estimate that to be around 9 or 10. This makes sense since Ash is a more experienced trainer, he could get through a region faster. Combining that with the remaining time in Johto, which is probably about the same amount of time, maybe a month or two shorter, we can total that to about a year and a half since the third movie. So Ash should have turned 13 sometime during the Hoenn region travels. We can estimate that the Battle Frontier took Ash about the same amount of time as the Orange Islands, so that would be about half a year or so. Combining that with the year and a half from the remainder of Johto and the Hoenn travels, that would be about 2 years since the third movie, so Ash should be 14 at the end of the Battle Frontier. The Advanced Generation consisted of 192 episodes including the Battle Frontier. This is one more than the Diamond and Pearl series, which had 191. Therefore, we can assume that they took about the same amount of time, a year and a few months. Therefore, at the end of Sinnoh, Ash should be 15 and a few months. The travels through Unova and the anime arc about N and Team Plasma totaled to 122 episodes, about 70 less than the Advanced and DP series. Therefore, we can assume that those took about the same amount of time as Hoenn, 9 or 10 months. Since at the end of Sinnoh, Ash was 15 in a few months, he should now be a little over 16 as he heads into the Decolora Archipelago. So if the writers had aged Ash, he'd currently be 16. However, they have not, and likely will not until the very last episode of the entire series in a flash-forward type thing or something. That's because, in the end, Pokemon is meant to be a kids' show for kids about 10 years old, and kids grow up. So, Ash can't grow up, because he has to be the same age as the new kids when they get to be that age. So officially, Ash is 10. Mathematically, he should be 16. But, no matter how old he is, I'll probably keep watching the show for its badass battles and occasional funny bits. That's all for now, Poke fans. So until next time, gotta catch them all. Check out some of my other Pokemon videos and my Raccoon Man videos. And don't forget to subscribe, or I won't take you to the Pokemon Center when you get poisoned. Ah.